I'm a haplogroup B, and this again is just my matrilineal side. But they weren't one of the genes didn't come from the original daughters of Eve. From East Africa, but from one of the migrations of one of the daughters of Eve into Southern Europe. So the line started in Southern Europe, and as I said earlier, traveled through several countries, Armenia, Greece, India, into Japan. And then the migrations from Japan, they stayed there for a long time, but then there was a migration across the Bering Strait into Cuba and South America. And since that time, the only migrations from Japan have been my mother's marriage into America and my cousin's marriage into Brazil.
Did everybody?
I forgot.
I forgot as well.
This is what's interesting about one of the things I learned of many fascinating things over the last year and a half is the marketing of these tests, because initially when I found out that we were going to do a swab, I thought, oh, this is going to answer everything I've ever wanted to know about myself, all on a piece of paper written out in English. And then you realize the different levels of testing, and it gets more and more expensive the closer you get in history, which is really interesting. And then if you want a really complete picture, you do have to have your parents, ideally your grandparents, and then cousins and uncles and aunts. That's how you're going to finally get, and that, so it can become an obsession, or it becomes very discouraging because you either don't have those people anymore, or it becomes incredibly expensive. But we met some people, and I was contacted by a woman in England who's in my U7, which is supposedly rare. I had no idea. So now we're in touch about our haplogroups, and she wants me to enroll in this website and that website. And I'm a little wary of it, to be honest. I don't know what it all leads to. I feel like I know who I am already.
But that's true. It is about who you are. The difficult thing, being an immigrant, as I said before, and also being an only child, I think what was really hard is to try to find people that seem to be connected. All my cousins are in India. I have cousins in the UK and different places around the world, but no one near. So you're looking for this connection. Now, when you're a teenager and you come here, you're looking to fit in and not be different. You want to become like everybody else, and that's what everybody is working toward. Let's find unity, but then maybe there is this unity by finding individuality, and to know who you are, so that you can be part of the group, the larger group.
Part of the beautiful thing that sounds like it happened is the letters, numbers dropped off, and the stories started to connect.
Exactly right.
Nothing more important than that.
Yeah. Are there other questions?
I've been fascinated by DNA, and I've done a sampling of my DNA up to 67 markers, and each group of 12 markers brings you closer and closer to the living relatives rather than distant relatives. One of the questions I had as I listened to these three fascinating examples is whether anyone here did anything with the notion that we are very closely related when you get right down to it, even though we don't all look alike, especially at this time when our world is in turmoil because of people trying to make us look different from each other rather than being the same. I think that would be the Great American Book or the Great American Play.
That's true.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, your place sort of has a lot of connections in it.
Yeah, I was just curious. I'm looking at the names, and the playwright that you chose were predominantly Asian. And why was that? Why didn't you expand?
Silk Road Theater Project, we showcase playwrights of Asian, Middle Eastern, and Mediterranean backgrounds. So we use the historic Silk Road, the sort of Japan to Italy, when we include the sea routes, as a geographic guide for the stories that we tell, and our sort of guiding principle with selecting work is that the playwright and the protagonist or main character in a piece be of a Silk Road background.
Okay.
I was just curious if, I know you had a deadline, did you have a I'll show you mine if you show me yours moment? Or, did you all decide 7 o'clock Eastern time you would all email a PDF of your script?
We did kind of.
So that they all,
Basically, yeah.
or did somebody bravely go first and everyone read that?
No, we're not
Yeah.
putting it that
No
way.
one's
There was.
We had a
did.
deadline, right?
We
By-
did.
And,
We
then,
did.
and then the theater said we're going to share it at this point.
Right.
And we sent it out all to each other, and people read each other's.
And I sent Jamil 3 because I couldn't,
And
so
did
he had
you-
to choose.
Did you know each other before this project?
Some of us.
Yeah,
Well,
we've had
all
different
known of
connections.
and we've all known of each other, but this has made us come closer. I think mine is part of a bigger piece. I feel like it because I was doing two pieces like her too at the same time, and so it's going to be interesting to reconcile how that and so many. That is a fantastic idea that you brought up. So maybe there's a way that'll come into the play.
What's interesting for Shashir and I is we've known each other forever, and then last year we were commissioned by LA Opera to write a piece together, and then this came along, so we're actually working on 2 projects.
Yeah, and maybe a third.
And maybe a third.
I just wanted to hear, as far as working with a commissioned play, where do you find the line is between telling your own story, having it land on the audience, and meeting the criteria of the visionary?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
You know, for myself, I always wait till my body gives me something. And usually what it requires is feeding it a lot of information and these sort of guidelines kind of just into my body, and then letting the body take over, and it will sort of give you something. And I don't think about how it kind of fits into whatever's supposed to fit in. I sort of leave it up to my body, having sort of taken it all in, and sort of put it together in some way that I could never do consciously, and then allowing it to come out. And then after it's come out, you tweak it some. But for me, it's sort of, that's the way I fashion things, by not fashioning them.
This was my first commission, and I was excited. I thought, oh, well, I'm going to write. They're going to teach me everything I need to know, and then I know what I have to write about. No problem. But it was really, really difficult, and that's why I think I wrote. There were other reasons, but that's why I think I did 3 different complete plays that I struggled with, and I struggled to sort of stay on target, on message, you know, in a sense. But once, I think what Philip is saying is right, once I had digested and once enough time had passed after digesting all the science, that's when I began to feel a freedom, and when the material that I thought I was trying to reach for kind of became organic, and then the story that they ended up choosing was the one that came out most organically. So.
I agree with Philip too that I don't think you can start out with a plan about what you want to write about. I mean, I think that you listen and you learn and you observe and you reflect, and then sooner or later it comes to you. And it usually isn't, as Shashir said, the thing that you plan to write. It just is something that hopefully surprises you and is related to the notion of the commission, but in a strange way also is subversive.
Yeah. For me, there's an analogy between doing a work that's commissioned on a theme and doing, say, historical work. Because when you do historical work, I feel like you need to read the history, become familiar with the period, and then try to forget all that when you actually start to write the play, and really just write the play that comes out. And similarly here, I think it was, at least for me, a matter of absorbing the science. And in my case, it was a remark that Shashir made about when we were comparing the DNA testing and some of the pop culture applications of it to the fad for reincarnation that some of us who are older remember. And Shashir said everybody thought they were reincarnated from Cleopatra. And that was kind of what triggered my play.
Well, Jamil gave us pretty much carte blanche to write whatever we wanted to write. So that was very generous on his part. So the parameters were actually very wide. And so for me, it was after the session where we met with the geneticists and the biomedical scientists, and for me it was the science. Once I stopped being overwhelmed and frightened by it, I got excited, and that excitement led to the adventure of trying to capture the sense of adventure in my play. So it was really the science that propelled me to write what I wrote.